Hello, investors, and welcome to yet another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. Well, friends, it's been a good first half of the calendar year. But as we're moving in and we're filming in August right now of 2023, markets are rolling over a little bit. And that is why it is so important to stay in touch with the companies that we are following, to see their progress, to make sure that they're hitting the milestones, and really ensure rolling up our sleeves and really keeping up with all those four C's, the quarterlies, and also foreshadow what's going to come over the next 12 months. And that's why I'm so glad to be rejoined again by our friend, Chairman and CEO of Avenira Corporation, Brett Clark, because Avenira is a company in the portfolio that we continue to follow, and we are really anxious to make sure everything stays on track. We understand they are in the right commodities, that's phosphate and LFP battery space longer term, but we also want to understand what is happening right here, right now. And with that introduction, Brett, welcome.
Thank you, Greg. That's a very warm welcome. Appreciate it, and thanks for the opportunity to have a chat today.
Great. Hey, Brett, just most people are familiar with your story that are in our network, but for those that aren't, you have two major projects going on. Can you just describe them a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So look, we're probably one of the largest phosphate resources in Australia, but we're also the largest high-grade phosphate resource in Australia, which is really important. Probably about 11 months ago, we signed an agreement with a lease in Taiwan, which was one of only two LFP or lithium iron phosphate cathode active material or cathode producers in the world outside of China. And we've been moving ahead to start a bankable feasibility study, which we're looking at starting later in this half year. Elise they've got a plant which is already operating, so we're looking at a cookie cutter approach and copying their plant. And we've engaged Bechtel Engineering to assist us on that journey as we move ahead, as well as building up our team in terms of experienced people. Upstream, we're also focusing on a direct shipping ore project, and that project we're going through and maneuvering with final negotiations with off-takers at the moment, and with contractors and suppliers along the supply chain. And we're also looking at what we call a yellow metal phosphorus project, which is a downstream project at the Avenira site as well. So quite a few announcements over the last 12 months, but we are moving ahead as quick as we can in pulling these projects together.
Yeah, and speaking of the Avenira project up in the northern area of the country, one of the things that we've noticed so far, Brett, from Avenir is that you have hit every timing milestone. Everything has been on time and on budget, which is, let's face it, that you need a little bit of luck as well to get these things to move, right? Can you just that's backwards looking. Can you just tell us maybe over the next 6 to 12 months, what should investors expect up there though?
Okay, so look, I'll work from upstream with the DSO. So we're working, as I mentioned earlier, we're working through off-takers. One of the questions that was asked of me when we did our last placement is that we're only dealing with one off-taker. Do we see that as a risk? We walked away from those discussions, and we decided to actually move ahead and start talking to other off-takers as well. And so we've got two very interested off-takers that are working with us at the moment to finalise off-take agreements for direct shipping ore. The other part of it is we've also been working together with road haulage contractors, the rail contractor, which is Horizon, because they've got a monopoly on the line between Tennant Creek and Darwin, and also with mining contractors. And we're now at a point where we're at a preferred basis with the mining contractor and the haulage contractors. And so we're ready to move ahead with the decision making on that. So we need to get to a point where we have a project investment decision or financial investment decision, FID, and we're focusing on that towards the end of this quarter. and then moving into production next quarter, assuming that everything lines up in terms of finance, not in terms of financing, but in terms of financial modelling. So we're very excited with that, and we think we've got some excellent contractors, and we've got some world-class off-takers moving ahead with that. Sorry, Greg, do you want me to go further downstream, or have you got more questions on DSO? Apologies.
Yeah, just on the DSO, I just want to drill in on one point there. Brett, you're somebody that for people that don't know, have a lot of experience in bringing projects into production. And that is a very different skill set, as we have spoken about, than just pure exploration work. Can you just talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so look, project development is a core skill set that I have, as well as my project director Brian Campbell, and one of our other directors has just brought on I suppose another project with Red 5, the King of the Hills project, Kevin Dundo. So with my specific experience, I was owner's representative on building Marandoo in 1994 with CRA back there, or Hammersley Iron as it was known, which is Rio Tinto now. And I've been involved in many other projects since then in terms of developing those projects, including copper gold projects and other iron ore projects. And because this is a phosphate project, it's a bulk commodity. It's not too dissimilar to other bulk commodity projects. Every part of the supply chain I've been involved in. I've also been involved in every part of the design of these projects, as well as the construction and implementation and commissioning and operations of these projects. So I also have a lot of operating experience, as does other parts of my team as well. So I think what we see with a lot of projects at our stage is that they're very heavily orientated towards exploration skills.
Yes.
We're heavily orientated towards project development skills.
Yeah, and that's as you said, there are two major milestones for the business for this project right now, and the company itself, which is obviously to get the feasibility study complete and into first revenue. So that's really incredible, and one of the reasons that we're so supportive. Now, Brett, also, do you just want to talk a little bit about downstream?
Yeah, so the next part of downstream is the yellow phosphorus metal project at Avenira, whereby we also converted into thermal phosphoric acid, battery grade, at Darwin. So I suppose investors that are on this call and potential investors would note that we haven't issued a scoping study on that. And the reason behind that is that we haven't been able to size the project correctly. Originally, we were looking at sizing it for up to potentially 100,000 tonnes of LFP cathode production up in Darwin, but we've now had a lot more demand from strategic off-takers around increasing the size of our yellow phosphorus metal plant. So until we sign agreements with strategics on the yellow metal phosphorus plant, we're not going to release that yellow phosphorus metal and thermal phosphoric acid study. But we're hoping to do that definitely before the end of the year. Yeah, we're having some good strategic discussions around that. So that then leads us into the LFP plant that we're proposing with a lease in Darwin.
Definitely.
And that so we're proposing a 10,000 tonne per annum plant there at the moment, but dependent on offtakes, we may go the big bang and go for 30,000 tonnes per annum of LFP production. The returns, so we're looking at offtakes being around about 60 to 70% of our total production. So these would be long-term offtakes. And the IRR for a 20-year project, is, because this is a manufacturing project at the end of the day, is around 22%. And for the spot, which is for the remaining 30% of offtake, we believe it'll be up to 42% IRR. And for manufacturing projects, this is outstanding. A lot of manufacturing projects with 20-year life or longer um, in the EU and North America have IRRs of around anywhere between about 9 and 15%. So we believe that we've got a good rate of return for these projects moving ahead, and obviously a demand growth curve at least to 2030, which is outstanding around LFP.
Again, for people that, just to be very clear, you obviously have two different projects there. One in the short-term revenue, LFP is probably going to take a little bit longer, but probably represents that huge blue sky upside. From a business point of view, because you're the chairman as well, is that how you think about the company?
Yeah, look, at the moment, we think the DSO will obviously contribute cash once we get through FID and we start the operation, and that will put us in good stead of building up the equity position to fund the LFP plant first. The LFP plant will have, assuming we start the BFS in the fourth quarter this year, we'll complete that the middle of next year, maybe sometime in the third quarter, and we'll move into construction in the fourth quarter next year. And construction will be a very short period of time because it's very much modular, and we should be at least have mechanical completion in the second half of 2025. The upstream yellow metal phosphorus plant will probably take about 18 months longer because and that plant with the LFP plant we'll be leveraging Elisa's supply chain that they've got at the moment around thermal phosphoric acid, as well as lithium hydroxide and other components, so that we get up to 30,000 tonnes per annum, leveraging the supply chain of Elise.
Right. Hey, Brett, and also I just want to talk about the location. Obviously, you're filming with a beautiful San Francisco background, but these projects are up in the Northern Territory. Just describe up there for investors the state of the infrastructure up there, and also especially around the port access. And what I really want to understand and drill on it is that these are not pies in the sky, so to speak, where there's nothing around. And the reality is, it's great to find a resource, great to find something, but getting it out into the market is a whole nother ball of wax. Just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Wanara first. So we're blessed with the fact that we're right next to the Barkly Highway, which is the main route between Mount Isa and Tennant Creek, and joins with the Stewart Highway up to Darwin. We've got the Gemina gas pipeline running adjacent to our property. It actually runs across the top of our property, so that'll put us in good stead for gas supply for the yellow metal phosphorus project. We also have obviously abundant sun out at Wanara, so solar renewable solution there, and we're also in one of the windiest places in Australia. Actually, Tennant Creek, a couple hundred kilometres west of us, is one of the windiest locations in Australia. So we're hoping to prove that hypothesis at Wanara as well, so that we get a majority renewable solution around power. So it's a great location. Up at Darwin, we're one of the first proponents in the new Middle Arm precinct, which is adjacent to the Darwin port, with great access roads, infrastructure, gas pipelines adjacent, as well as the port being adjacent and rail adjacent as well. So It's an amazing location. We're one of 5 proponents that was announced to the market a few weeks ago, and we're going through that process as well. And I must mention the Northern Territory government has absolutely been fantastic in their support of the LFP project and the projects that we're also running in Central Australia at Wanara as well. Without the government in their support of nature around business development and growing the territory, it wouldn't be as good as what it is at the moment. So we do thank the government for that as well.
Yeah, and also, Brett, it really does de-risk what could be a big outlying effect if you're in some different parts of the world or different jurisdictions, doesn't it?
And look, it does. And yeah, we we believe that although we don't have special project major project status, we will achieve that soon through the process. But we've been treated as though we have major project status anyway. So it allows us to cut through and go through the due process with the agencies in the Northern Territory government in a more efficient manner, so to speak. But obviously, we have to go through the due process. That's important.
Right. Hey, and Brett, also, Australia is a global powerhouse when it comes to commodities. Can you just tell us, offtake agreement discussions, debt discussions, or whoever it is with international parties, what is having your project located in a really great rule of law location with great infrastructure? Are those discussions just a lot easier?
Look, they are because we're in Australia. You know, amazingly, also maybe not Darwin, but Perth. We're in exactly the same time zone as 1/3 of the world's population, including China and other places. But you know, we're obviously,
Good point.
but we're also dealing with Korea and Japan and other entities in Southeast Asia as well. And you know, there is a massive demand in this region, which is important, and there is a familiarity with Asian strategics with Australia. And you know, although there is increasing repositioning of non-Chinese countries such as Korea and Japan and other groups with the EU and the US with the EU critical minerals funding and the IRA in the US, there's still good strategic regions to be in Australia. In the fact that you know, one of the differentiators I've seen around cathode materials is that, and I've learnt this over a number of visits to Asia this year, and specifically in Korea, is that cathode materials need to produce where the upstream markets are close by, whereas actual EV batteries need to be produced near the actual electric vehicle car manufacturers. So although we're seeing a lot of LFP plants being built in North America, or a lot of cathode plants, I believe that there's an opportunity to build a lot of cathode plants in Australia, because we have all the materials in Australia, and we can supply those and provide a much value uplifted cathode product per ton, which is easily transported to end markets such as the battery cell manufacturers in Asia, as well as North America and Europe. A little note there is that energy storage systems, as opposed to electric vehicles, battery cell manufacture is occurring in Australia, and there could be increasing demand for energy storage systems around LFP in Australia in the future.
Oh, that's great. And I think it also highlights another potential source of economic growth within the country, of job creation, especially in the northern area.
Yeah, look, yeah, exactly right. And there are a lack of skills in Australia around battery cell manufacturing, which we're not doing, but also LFP cathode manufacturing. And when Tesla announced almost 2 years ago, that they're moving all their standard range vehicles to LFP batteries, there wasn't really the skill set in Australia to understand that. We had to approach universities, we had to approach the CSIRO so that we could get a quick learning curve around LFP. And we got that, and that's how we found a lease and moved ahead with that. But you can count on two hands the number of highly skilled people in Australia who have actually got 10 or 15 years of experience working in either lithium iron phosphate cathode manufacturing facilities or nickel, cobalt, manganese manufacturing facilities overseas. There's just not that skill set in Australia. So we do have to import skills. and we also have to bring those skills to places like Darwin, where we're going to build our LFP manufacturing facilities. And Elise are very, very, very much wanting to support us on doing that. And the Elise team, a small team, will be working with us hand in glove through design, through construction, through commissioning, and through operations, so that we're already pre-qualified before we produce our first ton of cathode material.
That's great. Hey, Brett, we really appreciate the update. If anything else, it really supports the thesis that you are moving forward. If there was one or two points you just want everybody to know at this juncture for Avenira, what would they be?
Um, Look, I think the key thing is that we do have the project delivery experience. These projects aren't going to happen overnight. They do take time because we've been down the path before. Yes, we've got the experience, but we also understand the risks, and we also want to mitigate and or eliminate these risks so that we have a smooth implementation, and we move ahead from there. So we are being careful, and the first projects that, assuming we get financial investment decision approval for both the LFP project and the DSO project, then we'll move ahead with those with rapid fire implementation. But we'll do it with very experienced people as we move ahead. And watch out for the yellow phosphorus metal story. Hopefully that'll start growing in the future as well.
Great. Hey, Brett, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you, Greg, and thanks for the opportunity. It's a pleasure.
Okay,
Thank
bye
you.
bye.